Off the Books episode of the All the Books show, recorded at the David A. Howe Public Library, where we talk book news, author news, and literary news. I'm Eric Mickles, also known as Dus vs. Tweak online.
That's right. And I'm Nick Gunning.
That's Nick Gunning.
And
You have a few handles.
Do I? Yeah, I mean, nothing that's all that public or exciting.
Okay.
Eric's telling you his because, as longtime listeners of this podcast know, I like Star Trek. Eric likes Overclocked Remix.
That's true.
That is particularly relevant today because, as promised in part 2 of our week-long celebration, really, of music, Eric sat down with our special guest, Larry Oji, also known as Lion Tamer, who is the community manager and head submissions evaluator for Overclocked Remix.
Yes, I did.
So, Eric, how did this come about?
I emailed Overclocked Remix and asked if we could interview them because we did our episode.
206.
Episode 206, we talked about the music we listen to while we read. And, I mean, mine specifically is basically Overclocked Remix. I mean, I also listen to it other times in my life as well. But I figured if we're doing this, let's interview somebody about the website.
Hey, this has been I've heard some of your playlists before, and you've made me playlists and things over time. But this is not something that I am intimately familiar with.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've learned a lot about it this week.
I've been listening to it since I was 16.
Wow.
So that's basically half my life at this point.
Absolutely.
Well, I interviewed Larry Oji, like you said, Lion Tamer, to talk about the website, how it kind of came about, some milestones they had, and just to give either listeners who don't know insight, or a lot of it, even though I've been there for so long, a lot of it was new, a lot of the behind-the-scenes production of some albums and everything. So that was a lot of fun.
That's great. Looking forward to it. Let's roll it.
So I am here with Larry Oji, also known as Lion Tamer.
Well, I go by Larry.
Okay.
Everyone needs a handle, so
Yeah.
I'll just say Lion Tamer is I got it from being a professional wrestling fan.
Okay.
And a favorite wrestler of mine, Chris Jericho, his
Right.
finishing move was the Lion Tamer, so that is where I got my
Oh, all right.
that's where I got my handle from. I don't tame lions, but I do like professional wrestling. It's still real to me.
You were explaining to me right before we started recording the origins of your last name, OJI.
There are two cultures that it's
Yeah.
found in, right? So I'm half Nigerian.
Okay.
That's where I get my last name, from the Igbo tribe in Nigeria. The other culture that Oji is found in is in Japan. There's also a city named Oji, and Oji means prince in Japanese. So
Right.
I've only been to Japan twice, but when I get introduced to people, they're told that my last name is Oji. I always get a nice reaction. So I am of royal persuasion.
People see my name, they're like, is that Michaels? Is that Miklos? But
When I grew up, it was either it was Ojai, Ohi, all that kind of stuff.
Oh,
Now,
sure.
for some reason, everyone seems to get it right the first time.
yeah.
I don't know what dynamic has changed in the last 20 years, but now everyone seems to get it right now.
we're
So
more
I'll take
connected now, so. Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but if somebody sees a tweet from the Overclocked Remix Twitter account, there's a good chance you're behind the wheel there.
There is a very good chance that I'm behind the wheel. So
Okay.
absolutely, I would say, I don't know, 80%, maybe 90%
Okay.
of the messages that go out are from me.
Mm-hmm.
Always enjoying talking to people that love video game music. I'm always trying to share video game music with people out there that don't necessarily know what OCR is. So
Right.
I'm always working on popularizing game music to
Mhm.
anybody that's willing to listen to it. So yeah, if you see
Amen.
me, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever,
Right.
I'm on there. That's probably me.
What exactly would you say your official role with Overclocked Remix is?
Geez, well, I'm officially the community manager, and I'm also the head submissions evaluator. So I'm the lead judge as part of the judges panel. It's our music evaluation team.
Right.
All of the video game music arrangements that are submitted to OCREMIX are peer reviewed by a panel of judges, and the panel's comprised of talented musicians that are usually veterans within the OCREMIX scene, and there are a
Right.
few listener judges as well. So I would be one of them. I have no musical background or knowledge or experience whatsoever. If you sang a note, I could not tell you what note that is.
You don't
I
have perfect
no
pitch.
idea. I wouldn't even say I have relative pitch. But there's a whole team that listen carefully to every
Yep.
submission that's sent in, and we evaluate those video game music arrangements for arrangement creativity, as well as production quality
Yep.
and overall performance and execution. So
can you explain to listeners who might not know what exactly is Overclocked Remix?
all right, so Overclock Remix is a fan community that was founded in 1999
Yeah.
by David Lloyd, aka DJ Pretzel. He is the founder, the CEO, the site designer, administrator, poobah.
Guy who writes the submission blogs, the blurbs.
Yeah, he does all of the write-ups for
blurber.
every individual OCREMIX that's ever been posted. And so he started the community in 1999. Dave wanted to improve his musical skills, and he felt like the best outlet for him to do that, the one that would spark the most creativity for him, was taking video game music themes and arranging them and interpreting them in different sorts of styles.
Right.
So he started the website in December 1999 and furnished it with a bunch of arrangements that he came up with, but also grabbed a few tracks here and there off of the Wild Wild West that was the internet back then, and kind of seeded the website with about maybe 15 or 20 tracks to get started with. From there, people in the emulation community got interested enough to send their own submissions, their own musical submissions to it. And from that point onward, we've had fans that take these video game music themes, so whether it be, Super Mario Brothers, Zelda, Sonic the Hedgehog, Mega Man, Castlevania, Final Fantasy, anything like that, taking those classic themes and arranging them in all sorts of different styles. So the thing that sets Overclock Remix apart from overall fandom is that we don't just take the video game music themes and photocopy them and regurgitate them, but rather you put your own interpretive spin on it. So you can change the instrumentation or overall genre, you can alter the tempo, the rhythms,
add
the
lyrics,
key. You can add your own original writing, integrate your own original writing ideas, counter melodies and so forth, and do anything that you want to make the track a personalized interpretive approach of that video game music theme. Again, we've been around since 1999, so our 20th anniversary is actually coming up of 2019, which is insane.
Exciting. Yep.
But we are slow and steady approaching OCREMIX number 4,000. We've had some tracks that have been removed
as the standards.
As the standards got more fleshed out and tightened up. We removed some older tracks that violated those standards. But overall, though, we're shooting for remix number 4,000 sometime this year.
Goodness.
And we've got quite a few albums as well. So we've got 90 albums out. We have 70 community albums. We've got a number of what we call kind of independent albums. We've got a few original game soundtracks, and then we have a few commercial albums as well, including our official arrangement albums for the Mega Man series that we did for the series' 25th anniversary back in 2013, and we got the Overclocked version of the Crypt of the Necrodancer soundtrack that we did in 2018 as well for Danny Baranowski's soundtrack.
Pretty much everything on Overclocked Remix is free.
The commercial albums that we've done are definitely the exception to the rule.
Yes, almost 4,000 songs and the 90 albums. Those are all just free to download or stream or listen to.
Absolutely. Those are always freely available. We have legal torrent pages that are set up so that you can grab all of the content at once. And we always highly recommend. I always recommend that people just grab everything, because I'll just say in brief, for my story of how I discovered OCREMIX myself, it had been around for about 2.5 years. I was doing college radio at the time at Emory University, where I went to school here in Atlanta, where I still live. A friend of mine, after he asked me what I was doing, I said, I'm playing kind of a mixture of pop music and video game music. Right. And he said, video game music. Well, you need to check out this website. He was a big Castlevania music fan and kind of pointed me out to it and mentioned that the music was free. And I had checked it out, but it wasn't until I told my best friend from high school about the website, and he grabbed all of the music no matter what it was from. So when I originally discovered it, I just stuck with the games that I was familiar with. Like Super Mario Brothers, Sonic the Hedgehog, Street Fighter, Streets of Rage, that kind of thing. Friend downloaded all of the tracks, and I got to check them out, and it really opened my eyes to the creativity of the community, but just seeing how much great video game music was out there that I wasn't even familiar with. From that point forward, I said, I am never going to skip anything this website puts out. I am here. It'll be literally a couple of days from now. It'll be my 15-year anniversary on the staff. Yeah, it's been incredible. I love it.
I have a feeling a lot of people had the same journey as you, though, with just listening to the few songs that from the games they know, and then just expanded. I had the same thing. It's like, oh, I'll check out this from this game I haven't played, and then you end up just appreciating the source because of the remixes you hear, maybe without ever actually playing the original game.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I recommend for anybody that would be introducing themselves to it, definitely don't take the approach that you and I took, Eric.
Right.
We just went for the stuff we were familiar with. Like I said, had my best friend not done the work for me, this would, we wouldn't be talking right now. And I definitely wouldn't be, I wouldn't have done all the cool, video game music projects and game projects and travel, that I've been involved with since participating in the community.
Right.
So
as you were saying, Overclocked Remix is almost 20 years old. It's had a few milestones in that time. I was wondering if we could talk about Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD, the remix project that Overclocked did. That was a pretty big deal for the site back when it happened.
Yeah, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, which is always a mouthful. It's so that came out in 2008 on Xbox, PlayStation. The thing is, to put it in context, back in the day, the last Street Fighter game that had come out was in 1999, which was Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Yep.
And so the Street Fighter series had actually been dormant for nearly a decade. Capcom, they hired a firm to kind of look through their properties and help guide the company and figure out what they were going to do going forward to help monetize some of the existing properties that they had. The firm kind of looked at them and said, well, I mean, look at the blockbuster franchises you have. So many of them are sitting quiet.
Yep.
Why don't you go ahead and revive them? So Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix was a remade version of the 1994 game Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yep.
It was the final, at that time, it was the final edition of the Street Fighter 2 series, one of the most legendary arcade games of all time. And literally, and this has nothing to do with my personal involvement with the game and with that soundtrack, but Street Fighter 2 literally is my favorite game soundtrack overall and has been since I was a kid.
I mean, it's a stone cold classic of a soundtrack.
Absolutely. It's got 17 character themes, and not one of them is a dud.
It's
all
so
of
good.
all of them are legendary. All of them have stood the test of time and are so iconic, particularly by Yoko Shimomura. She's an amazing composer and just a consummate legend. Capcom, they decided to revive Street Fighter the way that OCREMIX had been pulled in. Shale Riley and Malkos had directed the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo tribute album on OCR back in 2006, which was
Blood on the
called
Asphalt.
And so at Capcom events that they would present at, they were playing the Blood on the Asphalt album at the booth. And so when the time came to do this remixed game project, it was a natural fit that they reached out to us to see that if they could use Blood on the Asphalt track for the stage themes for the game. And what that ended up blossoming into was basically Ray Jimenez. He's now with Bandai Namco right now, but at the time he was with Capcom. And he reached out to Shale Riley. Shale thought it was a prank. Shale didn't necessarily think it was real, and kind of passed it on to Dave, to DJ Pretzel. And even DJ Pretzel, at the time, he was doing some work kind of in DC. He had to step out of like a secure building and call, and even he wasn't sure if this was legit. But once he got talking with Ray, it was clear that this was Capcom actually reaching out to make this happen. And the great thing was that, for anywhere where there was gaps, we were able to pull in the OCREMIX community and, get them to participate with some new arrangements. So, everything that was made for that soundtrack was developed by the OCREMIX community. And it was the very first game soundtrack, very first AAA game soundtrack, should I say, a professionally majorly released, commercial title to have a fully fan-made soundtrack. Yeah, we thought that was amazing. And, in the Overclock remix spirit of, not making any money. We did the soundtrack for free. We did it for the love of the game, and we released it to the fans for free for the love of the game. So Capcom swagged us out really nicely. So it's not like we didn't get any compensation. Art books, shirts, all sorts of really cool stuff.
The stuff you would have spent the money on anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 66 track soundtrack, and it's a project that's near and dear to my heart because, like I said, it's my personal favorite soundtrack, and to even get the opportunity to have OCR involved in what I think is a musically iconic franchise to begin with, to be able to leave our mark on it with something that's official, and honestly, to have my name in the credits of a Street Fighter game is just bucket list awesome, and something I would have never known to aspire to do. But it was a wonderful project. It was great to supervise it. Yeah, I think we really delivered in a big way.
That actually brings me to another question I had, in terms of you never expected to aspire to this stuff, but a lot of remixers who have submitted music on the site went on to produce their own soundtracks for video games, and few big names even from the game industry have come on to remix songs for the site. So what's it like seeing a remixer from OCR go on to work on a game like Mass Effect 2, or then have someone like David Wise come in and help remix a song for the site?
Again, not being a musician, it's not like I can directly take credit for the success that people have had per se. But I will say I do have my proud Papa Bear moments and stuff
absolutely.
like that. So when you mentioned Mass Effect 2, Big Giant Circles, who did that, Jimmy Henson, I'm so glad to call Jimmy a friend, and I know that I can indirectly say that I helped him get that gig. I'll talk about Jimmy, for example. When he was looking to kind of get on the radar with Jack Wall, who was the lead composer of the Mass Effect series. Tommy Tallarico and Jack Wall, did the Video Games Live concert tour.
Yeah, I'm going this Saturday even.
Yeah. So, Jack has since, wrapped up his involvement with it. But, and the thing is, Tommy is so amazing. He's been an OCREMIX supporter from the very start.
He even has a track or two, right?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he has a track, and actually, he has a collaboration, a Pac-Man arrangement, a collaboration with Dweezil Zappa, son of Frank Zappa. So yeah, that's actually really, it's a really cool item right there in and of itself.
Yeah, no kidding.
But so Tommy's been a huge OCREMIX fan all the time. I mean, anytime that he's in town, no matter where he is within the United States or anywhere, even around the world, if there are OC remixers that are around, he'll have us backstage. He'll take time to meet with us. And always shouts out OCREMIX at the shows.
Had Jillian Aversa touring with them a little bit before, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And then later on, Travia also toured with Video Games Live. So yeah, we've had multiple OCREMIX contributors who have been on the Video Games Live tour as well. So yeah, great point there, Eric. But I know with Jimmy, there was a concert that was within driving distance for him. And actually, though, when I say that it was within driving distance, it was actually, I believe, 3 or 4 hours away.
Well, depending on where you live, that's driving distance.
Yeah, no, sure. Jimmy really wanted to get on Jack Wall's radar, not specifically to get involved with Mass Effect 2. He just wanted to kind of show Jack some Mass Effect arrangements that he had kind of cooked up. And so, but he was a little bit nervous about doing it. So I remember we were talking.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, and he was saying, Larry, do you think I should go for it? And I'm, absolutely, you need to go for it. So he put a bunch of Mass Effect arrangements that he made on a CD. And then he mentioned to me, hey, I've still got a little bit of room left on the CD. Do you think I should put some of my original music on it? And I said, absolutely, yeah, go for it. He went to the concert. He got to meet Jack, just a little quick, face-to-face.
Right.
Got to, put him over for the skill and the quality of the Mass Effect soundtrack and handed him his CD. And didn't hear back for a few months and kind of assumed that maybe it was kind of dead.
Right.
What ended up happening, though, was that Jack listened to the CD, and he said, hey, well, listen, I like these Mass Effect arrangements. These are pretty cool. But what's going on with this original music? Because I'm actually about to get started working on Mass Effect 2, and I really like the sound of your original music. Do you want to come on board with the team? So it wasn't even the Mass Effect remixes that got him. It was
The originals.
Jimmy having some extra space and putting those originals on, because like I said, that's the one thing where I can take credit for that, just in the sense of going like, well, just overdo it, like overkill, give them whatever, let them hear everything you've got, let them hear what you're capable of. And he was able to get the gig off of that. So, yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, I know, like you've alluded to, I mean, we've had so many contributors do game music professionally going forward. You know, Danny Baranowski, him and Jake Kaufman, they're aka Vert, they're the two biggest examples of people that, you know, came in the early days in the OCREMIX community and are doing huge things. You know, not just with video game soundtracks, but now, you know, going into television as well. I mean, you've got Danny Baranowski working on the Invader Zim remake, and you've got Jake Kaufman working on OKKO for Cartoon Network and stuff like that. So, I mean,
and like you said, for Jimmy Big Giant Circles, one of his original tracks was on Stranger Things season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So he did an indie game soundtrack called There Came an Echo. He had part of the music for that, and one of the pieces got picked up and used in the second season of Stranger Things, which was amazing. So there's so many people doing big things. You know, Andrew versus Zircon is big too. You know, he did Soul Calibur 5. He did that part of that soundtrack as well, which is, you know, insane. And then also, you know, now he's kind of moved into his own realm where he's making his own games. He came out with the roguelike game Tangle Deep, which is out on Steam, is doing really, really well. There's just so much going on. You know, Will Roger, aka Busta Tunes. I mean, you know, he did Call of Duty World War II. He just did Mortal Kombat 11. And Danny Baranowski, we definitely can't forget. Like we mentioned, you know, we got to do an arranged soundtrack for him for Crypt of the Necrodancer. And, you know, of course, there's Super Meat Boy. There's the Binding of Isaac.
Binding of Isaac soundtrack is fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, long may it continue. I think we're a great breeding ground for talent. And, you know, like I said, it's not like we take personal responsibility for know, for what everybody has done. But I know that, you know, Danny B specifically, I mean, he got into making music because of OCREMIX. And, you know, and he stated that, you know. So I was going to say, it's really cool to know that, you know, people who are modern legends in this space have, you know, gotten their start with us and are and continue to be involved with us.
Well, as more of a listener than anything, like you said you have like this Papa pride, but even there's still this like this fan pride to see somebody that you listen to and you enjoyed, you know, even if it's the remixes of somebody else's music, to then go see them go on and make their own music, and other people then realize how good they are. You know, it's exciting to see that, even as just a fan.
Absolutely. And we continue to see that to this day. I know Pete Lepley, for example, he goes by Phonetic Hero. He just did the score for Chucklefish's latest game, War Groove.
Oh, so that I did not know. That's exciting.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you like Advance Wars or Fire Emblem, kind of that style, definitely check out War Groove. You know, anything from Chucklefish already has the, you know, kind of that seal of approval of being a high quality game. So, you know, if you like Stardew Valley, you know, check out War Groove, and be sure to take a look at that soundtrack.
Yeah, and like I said in the other part of the question, though, you've had video game composers come from the outside in help out. So I mentioned David Wise mainly because I remember that being a big deal with the Donkey Kong Country 2
That
album.
was a huge deal.
Yep,
that was a huge deal.
David Wise is also, I mean, even if all he had ever done was the first 2 Donkey Kong soundtracks, he'd still be a legend. But he still has plenty of other music out there. But I mean, he's a name.
I'm so bummed out because there was one time David Wise was here stateside for MagFest, the music and gaming festival over in the Washington D.C. area. It's in National Harbor, Maryland. And you know, I was sick that year and could not go.
Oh, no.
So bummed because I wanted to meet this man.
Yeah.
You know, for so long. But
he's pretty friendly on Twitter if you say hi. But
oh yeah. No, he's awesome. I mean, I've gotten a chance to interview him by you know, through OCR in the past, and one of the really cool things I'll just say real quick, because David Wise, for anyone who doesn't know, he's a legendary game composer since the days of the NES. He worked with the British company Rare to do soundtracks like, you know, Wizards and Warriors, you know, on the NES days. Well, he did literally all of Rare's video game soundtracks from start to finish.
And now he also does Rare inspired game soundtracks for indie developers as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Is he on ukulele, right? I mean,
Ukulele and
yeah, help him
Snake
with
Pass
that.
is the one I'm familiar with as well.
Ah, yes, yes, yes. But it wasn't until the Super Nintendo days that Rare started hiring additional composers, for the team. But with the Donkey Kong Country series, yeah, particularly 1 and 2 and 3 is a sleeper hit. Both the SNES soundtrack and the Game Boy Advance soundtracks are both excellent. I remember when we interviewed him, I remember asking a question about aquatic ambience, the underwater music from Donkey Kong
Yep.
Country.
Yes.
Now I'll say for any for any of the uninitiated who are not familiar with video game music, aquatic ambience is a modern classic. It was an instant classic back when it came out in 1994. And I would encourage anyone to just, fire up YouTube and go check it out, because it's a very, very relaxing theme. And the moment you check it out, you'll understand why it's a legendary video game music theme. So when we interviewed David Wise, I remember asking him, because one of the most important things, and this is literally critical to my fandom as a video game music fan. So when Donkey Kong Country came out for the Super Nintendo, one of the things that made that game different from all others was that when you paused the game, the music continued playing.
It was great.
I would definitely spend a lot of time when I was not able to play the game, or my mom wanted me to take a break or something like that, I had to do homework or something like that, but I would keep the system on, pause the game, and listen to the music while I was doing work or something like that. And so I asked David Wise in the interview, hey, listen, what was the thinking behind having the music play? Because I have to say, looking back at my gaming fandom, that soundtrack playing while the game was paused was one of the most important pieces of my childhood there, because it got me listening more actively to the music and making me realize, hey, this is really, really good stuff. Even before I got kind of on the platform of working with OCREMIX and video game music arrangements. So I said, what was the thinking behind letting the music play? I mean, was it kind of just trying to make the experience, more immersive, even if you weren't in the game, or what was the thing behind it? And he said, we just ran out of memory on the game cartridge. Like, he didn't say it in a way like, and he didn't say it in a dismissive way, but he said, we ran out of memory.
Right.
Normally for the games that he would do back in the day, like if you play Battletoads or something like that, if you paused it, the game would play a jingle, like a catchy jingle, until you unpaused it, then it would resume the music. So they had no memory left on the cartridge to do anything like that. So the easiest thing for them was to just let the music keep playing.
Right.
To me, I got bowled over like, what in the hell?
Yeah.
So, there was no deeper level of thinking behind it. There wasn't any, grand design to get people immersed in the music or anything like that. It was just, we ran out of space, and it was easier to just continue the music. I thought that was great. It's literally that's one of my life-changing things as well. He didn't know it, they didn't know it, but it had that effect on me, and I'm sure a lot of different people, given that it was a game where you could, again, you could just listen, loop the music, and just continue to partake in that experience.
Well, Nintendo Power used to advertise Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2 soundtracks. You could order it from them and just buy it right up. So I think, they knew what they had too.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So in terms of David Wise's involvement in the site, it kind of stretches back to 2004. Not his direct involvement, but him first learning of the OCREMIX community. It was when the community's second album ever came out back in 2004. It was called Donkey Kong Country Kong in Concert. So it was an arrangement album of all of the tracks from the complete soundtrack to Donkey Kong Country 1. And a fellow employee at Rare actually discovered it and passed it on to David, and then he was actually kind enough to use the email contact information on the website and contact a few of the artists that were on the album and thank them for making their the album and praise them for their tracks. Man, so that was kind of our first. And it wasn't the day and age where you have Twitter and Facebook and social media platforms.
Oh yes, it was very word of mouth.
It was still very word of mouth, getting touched by the hand of God, the clouds parting, and the hand dropping below the cloud line, and
opening up your email and seeing something from David Wise.
Yeah, I bless this wonderful project that you guys have made, and you're doing a bang up job. And we were ecstatic and over the moon, because the thing is, whenever we've heard from composers, and we're really lucky that this has held up in the 20 years thus far that we've been around. But we've always had kind words from composers, and not just notionally at the thought of fans taking the music and reviving it in some way, but actually going, whoa, I heard this and this is excellent.
Right.
Tommy Tallarico jokes all the time, like, they make it sound way better than I ever did.
Right.
So
he plays Overclocked remix songs while you're waiting for Video Games Live to start. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's been a long tradition with Tommy and with Video Games Live. So I know with David Wise, after he reached out after the first album, the directors of the second album, honoring Donkey Kong Country 2, that was called Serious Monkey Business in 2010. The co-directors, Jeremy and Wes, they go by Jeffrey Tosser and Bahamut on our in our community. They had the bright idea to reach out to David Wise and just say, just on a lark, hey, we're doing the next one. Do you want to be involved? What's the expression? You gotta shoot for the stars, and you might just hit the moon.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
He wrote back and said, yeah, that'd be great. Not only did he arrange the credits theme, but he pulled in his rare colleagues, Grant Kirkhope and Robin Beanland, to perform on the track as well. So it's a 3-way collaboration with 3 absolute legends from the company Rare, Rare alumni.
Yep.
To do that. And Robin Beanland is still he's the head of audio at Rare, to this day. So to have them involved and kind of have that overall seal of approval of not just what we're doing, but to have them involved with us and collaborating with us is just incredible. So yeah, to this day, I mean, whenever we've got Donkey Kong Country arrangements, we'll tag David Wise and Robin Beanland and get them on there, Grant Kirkhope as well. And they've always been just so wonderful and supportive of what we're doing, and to be able to count them as remixers within our community and our lineup is just insane. There was a Donkey Kong Country 3 album, Double the Trouble, and David Wise is on 2 tracks with that, and he's got one collaboration with a great European band, Monkey Kong, which I recommend everybody check out. But what I would say the kind of
Monkey Kong did the Dolphin Ride remix, which I absolutely love.
Yes. And the real awesome piece de resistance, I would say, of David's involvement in the Donkey Kong Country 3 album is that he has just a huge mega collab with about a dozen OC remixers. So he had the arrangement concept that he wanted, and then working with the directors of the project, so working with Wes Emunator, one of the co-directors of that album, they got a team of a dozen OC remixers to contribute their live parts, and David mixed that and combined that and made just a super stellar arrangement. So it's gone from that progression, right? It was the first album, it was David reaching out and saying, hey, you guys, you're doing some cool stuff. Just wanted to let you know this is great. Second album, hey, you know what? Let me bring me and my friends, and we're gonna, we will bless you with our involvement on your second album. And then the third is, well, you know what? You guys are really talented. Let me work with you guys to do something with it. So he pulled in not only Robin Beanland once again to collaborate with, but again a dozen or so OC remixers all together to make just a big super collab. And it's amazing. I mean, he's a friend of the website, and it's huge. And then kind of going back to the crux of the core question. And saying, what about the involvement of other, professionals? It is a really cool dynamic to have veteran game composers not just endorse what the fandom is doing, but also get involved themselves. So I know, we've got other big examples. Like I said, we've got Grant Kirkhope and Robin Beanland that collaborated with David Wise. We've got Tommy Tallarico. We've got the Fat Man, George Sanger, who's a legendary PC composer, did The Seventh Guest, Wing Commander. We've got Jeremy Soule, who at the time, was most known for, I guess, in our space, doing the Secret of Evermore soundtrack for the Super Nintendo. And of course, he's gone on with the Elder Scrolls series to just completely change the game in terms of orchestration. So he is, of course, a modern legend. And he submitted, we were saying you liked Final Fantasy VI Terra's theme. He's got his own rendition of that theme as well that he sent in, not only in tribute of Final Fantasy series composer Nobuo Uematsu, but also in tribute to David Lloyd, DJ Pretzel, who runs OCREMIX,
Right.
as a personal thanks for what he's done for the video game community, and just as an overall endorsement of what Overclock Remix is doing. And yeah, there's so many people that have kind of passed through and have been involved. I mean, we've had Norihiko Hibino, from the Metal Gear Solid series. So I mean, even these days, and like you said, with kind of having some more modern legends that are have come up through OCR, it's really cool to see those people be noted veteran established names in their own right, and passing on that word of what the OCREMIX community is all about.
Yeah, it's amazing to, even just from the outside, just to see it all happen. You've mentioned them a few times and we haven't really explained them. Overclocked Remix has, as you said, almost 4,000 individual remixes that people can listen to, but it also has about 90 albums. Do you want to explain the difference between what OCR normally does versus the albums, and maybe the amount of planning that goes into these projects? Because some of them can be quite massive.
The individual remixes, they are submitted, as it sounds, individually, one by one, by the artist to be peer reviewed by our judges panel and evaluation team. Now, the albums are dreamt up of by the community. The one thing that is nice about us, because we're a non-commercial community, we're not making the albums out of any fiscal obligation to do anything like that. We're not in pursuit of money. That's all well and good, but the thing is that all of our community album projects come about organically.
Right.
So we don't solicit, we on the staff don't put out any sort of call saying, hey, it would be great if we had this. Let's go ahead and do this album. We're going to organize this, and then you guys do it, and we'll throw it in a compilation, and boom, it's all good. So community members will take up the cause and get that started. Whether it's the very first album, which is Super Metroid Relics of the Chozo, that was done, that was created in 2003. And the creation cycle for something like that, or for the Donkey Kong Country album after that, Kong in Concert, sometimes an album like those took about a year in development. And the thing is, again, we're a purely hobbyist, fan driven, volunteer community, doing everything for free and for the love of the game. And so we have some projects that develop super fast, and we have others that take forever.
Yeah, Final Fantasy V, we're looking at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, especially because the 5-part album series that's supposed to come out in pieces. And so yeah, I should nag Dark Sword about that, because part 3 is due any decade now.
Sure.
But I know even with the Seiken Densetsu 3 album that we had come out last year, Songs of Light and Darkness, that took over 10 years.
Right. Wow.
From start to finish. Passed through multiple different directors, and was revived and shelved numerous times. But so and when I say shelved, I don't mean maybe tabled would be the right word, because it was never scrapped, but yeah, maybe put on pause. And so we have some albums that have absolutely quick cycles, and we have ones that have really, really insane lengthy cycles. And people have gone through entire facets of their life changing before the album that they were involved with comes out. But we like it. I mean, it's a really casual thing. It's meant to be nothing nothing beyond that. But the thing that I like seeing, again, it'll be 15 years for me on staff this month, is that there is no perfect way to create an album.
Right.
As long as the core things that are important in terms of marshaling a video game music arrangement album together with the community, is you just need somebody that has the vision and the drive and is willing to stick their neck out there and make it happen. Right. And one great example of that recently was the Skies of Arcadia tribute album that came out last year called Arcadia Legend. And we just put that out December of last year. And the director, Dark Flame Wolf, they had no previous experience within our community. They just wanted to have this album come out and literally marshaled everyone together, private messaged people, got to chatting with people and reaching out, and did all of the legwork, made sure that the idea never died, made sure to get assistant directors that could help, keep tabs on people, make sure things didn't get too stale, and just kept the ball rolling.
Right.
And it's not about being a proficient musician. It's not about somebody that's necessarily established within our community coming in and being hyper connected. It is literally just about a will and a drive to create something out of whole cloth and have a vision and execute on it.
Right.
And so that is a hallmark of these albums. Everything is marshaled from the ground up from the community. And, whether it's the music itself or even visual art projects that come along with that, the cover artwork or, booklets that are made. So, some of the albums have been printed up, for physical releases as well. And it's all about just not giving up.
Right.
So, yeah, anybody anywhere can come in and direct an album, and as long as they stick with it, they can make it happen.
Right.
And the one other thing that's really great about the way that OCREMIX does it, again, because we're non-commercial, the popularity of the game does not matter.
Right.
We don't care what you're doing as long as you're passionate about it and want to succeed. And we're here to offer you the community, the forum resources, our Discord channel, the recruitment tools that you need to get stuff started. And, as long as you're there, you can make it happen.
For listeners who are wondering what we're talking about when we're talking about albums, there's a few different styles of albums that OCR has. You have the ones where it's basically a track by track remixing of an original game's soundtrack. So each track from the original game will get remixed. And then there's also like the concept albums that are more like there was Esther's Dream, which is like a lullaby styled album of remixes. So
yeah. Well, I was co-director of Esther's Dream, so I can speak more to that process.
Okay.
So after David Lloyd, after DJ Pretzel, he and his wife had their first daughter. They've got two now. But yeah, when they had their first daughter, we just said, we've got to do something. This is a momentous occasion. And the thing that did work for me in terms of the recruitment aspect of that album, because this was essentially a baby / lullaby album.
Right.
Not literally every track is a lullaby or anything like that, but it's about kind of setting, stuff that kind of gives the imagery of, either childhood or childlike wonder, that kind of thing, things that are relaxing. I actually split up the album into different categories of stuff. So, I had sleepy time and playtime, for example, that kind of thing. So that even if somebody did something that wasn't necessarily the style of a lullaby, it all had its place there. Right. But the thing that I thought that was really cool was that when I did the call out for the music of this album, initially I had come up with a list in my head of thinking, okay, these are the ones that, do maybe kind of new age or, piano, acoustic guitar, relaxing stuff, and was initially going to stick with that. But instead, what I decided to do was just say, listen, this is the vision that I have. And I just emailed and went through my Rolodex and just hit up pretty much anybody and everybody that was a high quality musician. And what ended up happening was that I got a lot of contributions that were completely out of character for what people had done in their catalog in the past.
Right.
So, for example, Norg, who is an amazing guitarist, who does a lot of heavy stuff and is big, from the Dwelling of Duels and VG Mix communities, he had a Super Mario Brothers 2 piece that was super relaxing of the credits theme. And had I just said, he does rock and metal and focused on that, I would have never invited him.
Right.
But because I decided to broaden my horizons, I ended up getting a lot of stuff from people that was, again, completely out of step with what you would expect, based on their previous work. And they came through and made some brilliant stuff for the album.
Yeah, what I'm always impressed by with the albums is, because I was just re-listening to the Final Fantasy VI album again, and it kind of amazes me how many people you can have working on the album, how many tracks you can have, and yet the general sound of the album is incredibly cohesive. Like, very few tracks ever feel like they don't work with the other tracks, and it just kind of blows my mind that you can get 4 discs worth of music and it all fits.
I remember I have some really good memories back in the day of the Final Fantasy VII album, Voices of the Lifestream, and working with Zircon on that, in the sense of, I remember it was myself, Zircon, and I know JJT, another fellow arranger.
Right.
We kind of circled together and plotted out the track flow. Once we literally had the entire album there, we kind of plotted through, okay, we kind of have an overarching idea of what themes should come in what order, but let's listen through and make sure that this really, really flows nicely, and works from track to track. So yeah, I take a lot of pride in the overall flow of that album in particular.
Yeah, that one's actually in my CD player right now in my car. So good. Voices of Lifestream. Yeah, that was a great. That one came out when I was just starting college, and that wasn't an easy transition for me, and that was a good way to calm my nerves back then.
Always glad to be of service.
Yeah. Now I gotta ask you. You mentioned Street Fighter 2, but what are your favorite video game soundtracks?
Yeah. So
a few.
Yeah. As I mentioned, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, personal favorite. I almost can never imagine that changing. I mean, because, even when that soundtrack came out, when Street Fighter came out, I was 9 years old, 9 or 10. And so that the childhood links that I have with that kind of music are will never leave me. So I don't know if anything modern could ever replace that, in my mind. But geez, I'm an NES generation kid. Also grew up in the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Those are really my era.
Right.
Obviously did the N64 as well, but so the original 3 Super Mario Brothers on the NES are all amazing. Koji Kondo did those soundtracks. Streets of Rage 1 and 2 by Yuzo Koshiro.
Right. Yeah.
Those are incredible dance soundtracks, kind of in the European flavor.
Yeah.
Those were a lot of the and American house music.
Yeah.
Those were a lot of this. That was a lot of the stuff that was influencing Yuzo Koshiro at the time in the early 90s.
Yeah.
But those are really, really good soundtracks. And even Streets of Rage 3, which is criminally underrated and gets kind of a bad rep, I like that one too as well. But yeah, Streets of Rage is one of my favorite series in terms of music. Saga Frontier 2, I think that's a really beautiful soundtrack. It's a Square RPG that was composed by Masashi Hamauzu. He's a Japanese composer, but he was actually born in Germany.
Okay.
So technically German by birth, but he's of a Japanese extraction. But it's a very, very beautiful soundtrack.
Okay.
So I would highly recommend that anybody check that out. All of the track names are German. It's a really, I think it's a really accessible soundtrack. Breath of Fire 5.
I thought you didn't play RPGs.
I don't play them. That's the thing. I still don't. I listen to them though. So
I
got a lot of favorites on that. Obviously we talked about the Donkey Kong Country series. I only got to play 1 as a kid, so I actually don't have any personal connection with 2 or 3, but of course I've long since heard all of those soundtracks since being a kid. But Donkey Kong Country 1, absolutely huge. Along with Street Fighter and Streets of Rage and Super Mario Brothers, really, really formative soundtracks for me. Yeah, even with the modern stuff, a lot of my stuff is Capcom fighting games, just because, again, I love Street Fighter and I love stuff that Capcom has put out. Going on to something entirely different, the Katamari Damacy series. Oh yeah, extremely eclectic. You could dip into any one of those soundtracks and find something strange and weird, but fun and whimsical, all the good stuff. It's an amazing series. I'd recommend anybody look that up as well.
Because we're a book related we're a library podcast, a book podcast. I got to ask, what do you listen to music while you read?
I honestly don't.
Okay.
I really don't. I think the thing though that I mostly do, it's so fun now that I have my daughter. She's about 3 years old now. The times that I get to listen to music in my spare time are usually when I'm doing some sort of chores and kind of keeping house.
Okay.
So now, if I'm not listening to a podcast or something like that, if I'm not washing dishes or something like that, I'll be listening to music. Yeah, when I'm doing chores. So laundry, dishes, cleaning up after my daughter, that kind of stuff. That is primarily when I'm listening to music casually and stuff like that. Now, when I'm reading, my primary library method of choice is actually Hoopla and Overdrive. That's right.
Yes, Overdrive is what we have at the library I work at.
There are great digital checkout services that I highly recommend.
Yes.
So I'm a huge comic book reader. That's usually my book of choice.
Same.
I use Hoopla through I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. So through the Fulton County Library system, I have my library card and check out a lot of stuff. When I'm not physically checking out books, I like to do that, particularly for my daughter, to have books that you touch and feel and read. But for my druthers, when I'm just reading casually, I will be using Hoopla and doing digital checkouts from there. It is an amazing service. A friend of mine who works at the Emory University Library actually told me about it. And so, it's a great app because a lot of libraries are using the digital checkout system, to make sure that they stay relevant and, on tap for people in this digital age. So with Hoopla, I get 10 checkouts a month. And I'm able to, check out books for 3 weeks at a time. And because I'm not checking out the physical books, there's no late fees. Once the digital, once the time limit expires, the books digitally check back in and they return. Yeah, and then there's also, there's audiobooks, TV shows, and CDs as well. And so you get the full, not quite the full array, but you get a pretty full array of what's available at your local library. So of course, gravitates more toward more recent releases. So, if you want to read Gone with the Wind, you're not going to,
Well, listen, at my library, I used Overdrive to check out the Darth Bane trilogy when I was in a Star Wars kick. So they still get some of the older stuff there. Now that we've talked up Overclocked Remix and hopefully got some of our listeners jazzed about it, where do they go to find the music?
So, just Google us, Overclocked Remix. No, we're at OCREMIX.org, so OCREMIX.org. And on any social media, you should be able to find us, Twitter.com/OCRemix, Facebook, OCRemix, Instagram, OCRemix,
YouTube,
YouTube, SoundCloud, all that, even Patreon as well. If you want to support us monetarily, we are under the umbrella of Game Music Initiative, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And going back to the point of the music all being hosted freely, all of the staff and all of the artists, being volunteers and doing this on a volunteer basis. So we run under the auspices of a nonprofit, and that helps keep things, above board in terms of, for one thing, putting out unauthorized video game music arrangements that aren't licensed, by the copyright holders. But, like the nature of any fan art, whether it's visual artwork or in our case musical, it's not about trying to damage copyright holders. It's just about paying tribute to the music that we love. So go to OCRemix.org. All of that music is free. And then for any musicians, you can always submit your video game music arrangements as well to us. So we have a set of submissions, instructions, and standards that we look at. So, we encourage you to read that carefully. But if you just go to OCRemix.org and you look for the word submit, that shows you all the instructions that you need to know on how to submit your video game music arrangements. And the only thing we ask is, we're not there for people to send us other people's music. We're about other
Right.
people. We're about people sending their own video game music arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the basic ground rules that apply. It has to be something that you made, yourself. And other than that, though, we keep it very, very open. So any game is eligible.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to be somebody that has a big following, on social media. You don't have to be, a professional. We're a hobbyist, community. And with the standards and the bar that we set, it is still a high bar. We have a high quality bar, but we like to keep it, accessible for hobbyist level musicians.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be somebody that's hyper connected.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to remix a popular game or a popular song. It could be really, really obscure stuff. Yeah, I mean, as long as you're down with that, we're down with those submissions. I wanted to talk about two authors that I would recommend that are OCREMIX fans.
Okay.
So only to kind of tie it back into the library aspect of it, right?
Right, sure.
So one is a remixer, actually, right? Joe Zija. He actually just announced he's doing the voice of Claude in the new Fire Emblem game that's coming out.
Oh my goodness!
But he also did for the Star Fox animation short that came out. It was like an 11-minute animation short that came out a year or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was the voice of Fox McCloud. So not only is he an amazing musician, but he's a voice actor, and I mean he's done stuff for Nickelodeon and some animes as well. He's doing cool stuff. But he's also, beyond that, he's with Tor Books.
Oh, okay.
And so he's a sci-fi author as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you ought to check out his series. It's called Mechanical Failure. And it's been likened to Terry Pratchett's work. And that's not, just saying that just to try and tie it to,
right.
An amazingly famous author. But, again, Tor is a publisher that is, super, super high level, especially in the sci-fi community. So
mm-hmm.
if you're looking for sci-fi with kind of a comedic slant to it, definitely check out Joe Zija. Last name is Zieja.
Mm-hmm.
And you can check out his series. I believe the first two books are out. It's called the series is Mechanical Failure.
Right.
So I'd recommend you check that out. And then he goes by Expert Novice, XPRT.
Goodness.
Novice, Expert Novice. He goes by Expert Novice on Overclocked Remix, and he is an amazing instrumentalist and performer. So absolutely check out his work. It's phenomenal and among the highest quality of stuff that we have on OCREMIX. And that's speaking as somebody with 15 years experience at the website, with knowing our catalog, 4,000 tracks and 90 albums.
Yeah.
And then the other author I'd recommend, just as a courtesy to a great fan, but somebody who's been with OCREMIX since the very, very early days, is another sci-fi author, Brandon Sanderson.
Oh,
so yeah, if read the Mistborn series. I mean, his body of work is so huge now. Even helping complete the Wheel of Time series. Robert Jordan's legendary. He's a really class act, and one of the nicest things he told us, and he told us this in person. We got to meet him at a convention once.
Oh, wow.
But he's been a fan of OCREMIX since way back before he had any level of fame whatsoever.
Okay.
And so he said that way back when he was just trying to kind of get started writing professionally and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
He said that OCREMIX is what kept him going through what he called, quote unquote, the ramen days.
Oh, wow.
Of when he'd be like eating ramen noodles and living on the cheap, because all of the music was free.
Yeah.
And
sure.
so it was a way to just
fill up your iPod
stuff,
back then.
Exactly. So, but obviously, Brandon has gone on to just amazing
Yep.
success. I mean, honestly, I'm sure sooner rather than later we're going to see his stuff adapted, for TV and film in
something
a big
soon.
way.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah. So I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure some stuff of his is in the works. But honestly, and then within the OCREMIX community, so many people have said, once they pick up Mistborn and check out that series, they're absolutely hooked. So just off him being a fan of us, so many people on the staff have checked out his work, even the ones that haven't necessarily been sci-fi fans, and are like, wow, this guy is amazing.
Yeah.
He's a really prolific author, Hell, I mean, if you go on Reddit, he's done a lot of AMAs, Ask Me Anything sessions,
Yep.
just detailing his creative process, how he manages to stay productive even when he's in potential, creative funks, and even the tips that he gives for writing books are things that can be applied to people in any sort of creative field. And even musicians from our community have gotten great advice from him,
Right.
to that is applicable to their careers, whether they're doing hobbyist or professional music as well. So Brandon Sanderson, definitely check him out. Recommend him to anyone looking for a prolific and proven sci-fi author that they want to get into.
He has very shorter, accessible books like Elantris, but then he's got also these now. His current series is massive, The Way of Kings. So whether you're looking for something shorter, or if you want something that is akin to Wheel of Time or Game of Thrones in terms of just depth,
and scope.
Yep. So, and Mistborn is nice, right in the middle there. Sanderson is a very popular author and at a library, and one I enjoy as well.
So, ironically, the day that we're recording this, comic book author Alan Moore just retired. Yes. So his last comic book has come out today. He has potentially retired before, so he may unretire again. I would certainly hope, because I'm a big fan. And of course, it might sound cliche, but for anybody that's a comic book reader, Watchmen is easily my favorite comic book that I've ever read. I'm a big comic book fan. I've been reading for over 25 years at this point. And Watchmen is definitely my personal favorite comic book that has ever been created. I've read it, countless numbers of times. So for anybody that's looking for a top tier of comic books or graphic novels, you don't need to know a thing about anything to pick it up and read it. There's no backstory that you need to know. It is very, very exemplary of the finest in comic book writing. So Alan Moore and then Dave Gibbons, the art, amazing. Definitely check out Watchmen. If you've just seen the movie, don't judge it off of that. I wasn't a big fan of the movie. Don't worry about that. Read the book. The book is where it's at. The source material is where it's at.
He just announced his retirement with the release of the last part of his current League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Listen, I have to officially say to somebody from OCREMIX that the site and its music has been a huge part of my life. I found the site when I was 16 because of the Electronic Gaming Magazine blurb, and so.
Oh my gosh!
Yep.
Wow.
And I turned 32 last year, and I realized that I've now been listening to Overclocked Remix for half my life. And even, at 16, people would ask me what my favorite band or something was, and I have to just be like, it's Overclocked Remix. And I played a bunch of the tracks at my wedding.
Me too.
Yeah. It's been, the music is something that I'm always listening to, that people who know me end up having to listen to, even if they don't want to. It's always on in my car. I just appreciate that the site's still going and that it's still producing just grade A quality free music and preserving video game music as well.
Oh, well, I mean, thank you so much. No, I mean, it means a lot. I mean, we plan on being here for the long haul. And like I mentioned, kind of toward the top of the show, it'll be 20 years for us in December of 2019. And we don't have any plans of stopping. I mean, we continue to have fun with it. And the community always continues to surprise us with amazing renditions of video game themes, even the ones that have been remixed a lot. So whether it's Aquatic Ambience from Donkey Kong Country or Terra from Final Fantasy VI, we still get new takes on those that amaze and astound, and it's a great ride.
Larry, thank you again for doing this. I had a lot of fun just talking all about OCR, and listeners, now you should go and check out all the different songs that you can find.
Oh, yeah. No, there's thousands of tracks in all sorts of different genres. So, whether you like rock or, metal, piano, acoustic guitar, jazz,
rap.
Rap.
OCR helped convince me that dubstep was worth my time.
We've had so many people say that. So it's just whether or not, listen to it. Having a game soundtrack that you're familiar with being a gateway to other genres of music is one of the nice hidden gems, hidden gem aspects about OCR. So we are there to open up your musical mind. So we'd love to have you there. OCREMIX.org.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure, Eric.
And that was the interview.
Absolutely. Thanks to our guest Larry Oji for doing that. You guys got into it. You got a good conversation going there.
Yeah, it was at a late. We had to start recording at like 10:30 or 11. I can't remember now. I was in it.
Yeah.
I was into it, so
Yeah.
I was excited.
All right. Well, thanks again to our guests. We've got one more in the series coming up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about our third, or it's going to be our second Off the Books episode in the
Well,
series.
if this was our Temple of Doom, and last episode was our whatever
Raiders of the
Lost Ark.
Wow.
Then,
You just whatevered Raiders of the Lost Ark.
then our next episode is the Last Crusade of this trilogy podcast. Because that's how trilogies work. There's a part 1, part 2,
Yeah.
and a part 3.
So what would be our Crystal Skull? No, we're not doing that? Okay.
Yeah, you know what? Our Crystal Skull will be you and me talking about Sega and Super Nintendo.
Okay.
It's a retroactive sequel.
Oh,
These
I
were
see.
all prequels.
Right. Okay. Perfect.
So our next episode is a special playlist episode. I've selected a bunch of tracks from Overclocked Remix, personal favorites of mine. So it's going to be very particular to my taste. I'm sorry, but
no apologies necessary.
Nick and I are just going to talk about the tracks and just kind of get into it. And so any listeners who came into this and like, oh, I want to check out Overclocked Remix, do so. But you could also turn in for our next Off the Books, which is coming very quickly.
Yep.
To listen to some of the tracks that I enjoy.
It's Music Week.
Woo!
And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that today, August 7th, as we record, is Eric Mickel's birthday.
I'm 33 years old.
Happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you.
Last year on your birthday, we had Wendy Corsi Staub on the podcast, who did give you a special birthday
That's
shout
true.
out. So
On stage. Yeah.
On stage. So last year we had Wendy Corsi Staub. This year, Larry Oji. So you're on a birthday hot streak.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, talking about Overclocked Remix on my birthday, that's pretty good.
It is pretty good.
I appreciate that.
It is pretty good.
Again, if you just turned in because you came in for the Overclocked interview, please go and listen to episode 206 about music we listen to, or get into any episode that you find.
Yeah, you can find us at soundcloud.com/allthebooks, iTunes, any other place that you find podcasts, you can find us there. So take a minute to rate and review while you're at it.
Regular listeners, please turn into the playlist episode.
Yeah.
And then also 207.
Yeah.
But that, we don't even know what we're
It
talking about.
remains to be seen. That's our crystal skull.
All right.
All right, see you then.